If you got car questions, we encourage you to give us a call at 602-277-5827, 602-277-KTAR, and I guarantee you got a question. If you drive a car, there's something you're thinking about. Okay?
There's something burning in the back of your head you're curious about.
And if you just think it's a little one that doesn't need much explanation, you can text us at 411-923.
Oh, sorry. I was going to say, it's always you're at the party or something. I just got a quick question about my car. Mm-hmm. We can, really peel that onion a lot of times.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if there is a quick question.
Gonculator pump is my universal answer, or twin chrome commuter valve.
Right.
Or anti-flow of your anti-flow maximum viscositor modulator. I just came up with that one.
Perfect.
Anyway, so today on the Bumper to Bumper Roadmap, of course, open phones. We're going to have a little bit of information on the Good Guys Car Show.
Yeah, we got some tickets to give away.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And then, of course, you can text us with questions, those little questions. The big questions, you got to call us, but not too big because we're not that smart. So...
No big words, Dave. We don't want you to struggle.
And we're going to be talking about brakes, and not brakes like we got to go on break because there's commercials coming, but brakes on your car.
Yeah, we got to have those.
Definitely got to have those. And how have the expectations changed over the years? And one of the things that's changed for me a little bit is it seems like in most cases, or on the average, brakes last longer than they used to.
They do.
And they tend to squeak less than they used to. I think they've got the squeaks figured out. But the thing that goes on with brakes is there is such a big difference of prices from this shop to that shop to the other shop. And that's the quick question we get on the phone. Thanks for calling Tri-City. How much are brakes on my car? Brakes. What comes to your mind when you think of price?
Well, I mean, the first thing we have to combat, and I think it's gone away a little bit, and everybody needs to know this, there is no such thing as a $99 brake job.
Oh,
okay. That doesn't work.
I've heard advertisements of that, though.
Yeah. Well, we could talk to Mr. Marshall, who's on the Better Business Bureau board with us and used to have his shop. And he was involved years ago when there was that one brake shop doing $99 brake jobs. And the truth of the matter is the average repair order for that $99 brake job shop was $727. And it was oftentimes filled with extra stuff that you didn't need. I mean, Dave, I've done a lot of brake jobs at my shop over the last 24 years. I can probably count on two hands how many times we have rebuilt or replaced calipers. Because in Arizona, you just don't typically need them. But I tell you, these brake shops and the mass merchandisers, boy, they sell the hell out of brake calipers.
Oh, and
then if you don't want them, you don't get a warranty. So that's what comes to mind when people call to shop around. But I think a good quality brake job, machine, and let's just say a 2000 Honda Accord or a 2010 Honda Accord for that matter, or your Camry or your Chevy Malibu, all in that kind of mid-range four-door sedan kind of car, you're going to spend about $350 for a proper brake job.
As long as the rotors aren't garbage.
As long as the rotors aren't garbage and you're machining the rotors. We use an on-the-car lathe, and off-the-car lathe is good too, and a lathe is... picture you're a record player. Well, maybe a lot of people listening may not even know what a record player is.
I literally just bought one of those.
and sometimes the needle bounces on the record. Well, that record needs to be smooth. That's the same thing with your brake rotor. And they got to have a nice surface for the brake pads to bond against, so we want to machine the rotors. And so, yeah, about $350 per axle, front and rear. You would never do one side of the car or anything like that.
I think some people listening don't know what an axle is.
Well, yeah. Well, an axle would be the front axle, the two tires, and the rear would be the two tires on the rear. Now, there's some places, some of the dealerships, boy, they have some pretty good jobs on prices on brake jobs. They really lower those commodity prices down, but you got to watch out because they might stick you from the backside on the other work. So,
it feels vulgar.
Yeah. And then but you get in there now, Dave, we talked before the show. I can buy a set of brake pads for a $2,000. Now we're talking wholesale price. I can buy a set of brake pads for your Honda to then resell you for $13. $13. I can buy a set. They're real POSs.
Last pair of shoes I bought cost me $100.
Yeah.
And I only weigh 175 pounds. My car weighs 5,000 pounds, so I think the brake pads, brake shoes,
should cost a little more.
Should cost a little bit more than $13.
So you can buy a set for $13, or I can buy a set for around $42. That's a big difference. A third of the price or less. So when you get that inexpensive brake job, that's usually what you're getting. I mean, I can do a $150 brake job if you want, but you're not going to be happy with it.
Well, I noticed some people that do brakes, and brake jobs are still one of those things that people will do on the driveway. So the auto parts store, Acme Auto Parts, sells a ton of brake pads. Now, they sell, and you go in there, they always got a good, better, best. You know, we got this pad, has this much warranty. We got this pad's got this much warranty. Then we got this pad that's got the lifetime warranty. Those lifetime warranty pads are just hard as rocks, man. And they don't seem to stop well. They seem to make a ton of noise, and they seem to chew up the rotors pretty good, too.
Well, yeah, and you can't just say, I want the best pads and the best rotors, because they have to match. You may not want, depending on the material compound of the rotor or the pad that belongs in the car, you don't need the, quote, the best rotor or the hard carbon steel. There is a match depending on the pad. And so that's why you need an experienced parts person or experienced shop to make sure that we're putting the right parts on the car so that they match well. And when you're doing the job, you need to machine the rotors. You have to clean everything really good. We see brake jobs all the time. The car's got new brakes, and either they did it at home and just didn't do it right, or the shop did it and they just slapped some stuff together. But, I mean, you got to take the time and take the slides apart and clean them and put a wire wheel on them and take your toothbrush and scrub the slide and put a little bit. There's special brake grease. You don't put it on the brake pad. You put it where the touch points are to help stop the noise.
Well, I'm going to ask this question. I'm going to pretend like I don't know the answer. What is the expectation on brakes? I mean, how long do they last? What can I plan on?
I think now, I mean, my general rule of thumb used to be on your front wheel drive car about 27 to 35,000 miles, in that range. But we're seeing I would say that window's now moved up a little bit, 30 to 40,000 miles. But man, there's some of those. You take a Tahoe or a Suburban, you can't wear the brakes out on those things. They're 100,000 miles. The rotors go below the minimum thickness before the brake pads even wear out.
Well, the other one is the hybrid people. You know, I was at the baseball practice the other day. This guy comes over to me. He says, hey, my Camry hybrid. He goes, 130,000 miles. I still got the original brakes on him. That's normal. Because they got, when you brake, they use electric motors to regenerate, generate power. And so the brakes actually, I mean, I've seen Priuses with 250,000 miles on them with the original brake pads. It's crazy. Yeah. So there's those exceptions too. But I had to convince him, no, really, your brakes are fine. Yeah. He's like, no, they can't be fine. I'm like, no, they're fine. We looked at them. We touched them. They're good.
And typically a Prius driver, I'm stereotyping a little bit, they're quite a bit less aggressive than the way you drive, Dave.
That's true. That's true. Well, for me, it's full throttle or no throttle. But then the other thing too, and you mentioned before the show we're talking, is that you go to the auto shop and you say, oh, let's check my brakes. Oh yeah, there's 45% left on your brakes. And 45% is really not a good way to measure brakes or even to really describe them.
That's subjective.
Very subjective. So let's talk about the new brake pad. Most cars are going to have 12 millimeters of pad.
Let's back up just one
You
step.
always want to back up.
I know.
We
I want to back up
time
one
to back
Yes,
up.
we do. We'll make time if you quit yapping. So, no, a proper brake job. Now, I chew my guys out once in a while, but I think I've chewed enough, and there's not enough butt left anymore because I go out and I look at a car, and 2 wheels are off, and they tell me the brakes are okay. How do you check the wheels if you haven't pulled all, or check the brakes if you haven't pulled all 4 wheels?
Fireball offense in my shop.
Yeah, so when you're doing a brake inspection, all 4 tires are off the car, and are on the ground because we need to look at every single brake pad. That car has 8 brake pads, 2 at each corner. We need to be able to see all of them, not just the one you can see with the wheel on. So I get the thing on the ground, and then we want to look and we want to measure the pad. Now back to you, Dave. About 12 millimeters they start with.
Well, now we're out of time.
No, we're
what
not.
are we going to do? But speaking of inspecting the brakes, sometimes people, you know how they inspect the brakes? They shine the flashlight through the wheel. And they're like, they can see, I see a little bit of a pad. They're good.
Yeah.
That's really not a brake inspection either. And I had one in my shop where the shop before us had put on the wrong size rotor. So the outside edge of the pad looked plenty thick, but the pads were metal to metal on the inside. So anyhow.
So we're going to pull the wheels. We're going to inspect all the 4 pads, and we're going to measure them. We're going to give them a measurement in millimeters. The brake pad started off life around 12 millimeters as a general rule of thumb. They're absolutely garbage, worn out at 2 millimeters. So we've got about 10 millimeters of pad life left. So at my shop, if I tell you that brake pads have 6 millimeters remaining, that means there's 4 millimeters of usable life. We don't talk in percentage because I can't measure and nobody else has calibrated eyes to tell you percentages. We want to know how much those wear down.